supported by Printforce, Rockend and Realty.com.au.
Good morning. In my final day with Bruce Cotterill today, we will tackle the third and final C word, that is consistency, and the good and or damage impact it can have on a business, as Bruce will demonstrate with some examples this morning. He works with leading businesses and business leaders worldwide, and it's through those experiences and his own that he has been able to set out a blueprint for leadership in his book, The Best Leaders Don't Shout. I'll be back with Bruce in just a moment.
With the evolution of social media, marketing of property is no longer linear. Consumers are influenced differently. The Property Show is unique in that it empowers agents to connect with buyers and sellers through personalised content, social media and artificial intelligence. The Property Show delivers personalised, laser-focused marketing by combining new media, social media and audience targeting, and gives the agent a digital voice. See how well the Property Show works, and then let's get started telling the world about your property. See it now exclusively at realty.com.au.
Welcome to our final in the series with Bruce Cotterill, as we've been taking small portions of a great book, and there's a link underneath each of the shows this week that'll help you get to Bruce's book, The Best Leaders Don't Shout. And we're looking today at the third C word that's mentioned in Bruce's book, and that is all about consistency. Bruce, good morning and welcome to the show once again.
Hi, Kevin.
It's been a great week. I want to talk about a point you make in the book about consistency, and that is that the new breed of leader is someone who's not prepared to ask his or her team to do something that they wouldn't do themselves. That appears to me to have changed, Bruce. Why so?
Well, Kevin, I think it's a function of, as much as anything, it's a function of the world we now live in, where our activity is pretty visible. You know, not only because of social media, but even things like, you know, open plan offices. Bosses by and large don't sit on a separate floor to everybody else anymore. So, you know, the boss, and I actually talk about in the book quite a lot, the importance of leaders being visible and accessible. And part of the function of that, I guess, is that your people have a set of expectations about how you behave. And there's a story in the book actually which sums it up pretty well. And it's an experience that occurred in the aftermath of the GFC. And, you know, most of your listeners will remember how tough a time that was for business. And this was a large global retail organisation with a CEO who was paid millions of dollars a year. And he got his 150 key managers from around the world into a room for half a day and talked to them about how the company was going to respond. And they talked about all the things they needed to do across the business. And, there's aspects of the story that's pretty relevant to what we're going through right now with the aftermath of COVID-19. And so this CEO, made an absolutely outstanding presentation to his team about the key objectives of the business, how they were going to weather the storm. He talked about things like people taking salary cuts by reducing staff numbers, closing some stores, all the hard stuff. But he did it in a way that really galvanized his team. And it was an American audience, so as you'd imagine, the meeting wrapped up, and notwithstanding salary cuts all over the shop, you know, people are high-fiving and clapping and really appreciating that here's this fantastic new vision for the business. That afternoon, however, the CEO, the board of directors and the exec team got onto two helicopters and went and spent the afternoon at the local country club playing golf. And so all the good work that was done that morning went out the door by 5 p.m. that day, because those sort of stories go around in a heartbeat. Mm. And that company ended up subsequently failing and being taken over by one of its competitors. So it's just not a bad little lesson in terms of, you know, whatever you're expecting of your people, whatever you're asking of your people, make sure that you're acting in a manner that's consistent with what you're saying you're expecting from them.
Mm. There's another point I want to make while we're talking about this, and that is a wonderful quote in the book from Zig Ziglar, is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. can we just expand on that just a little bit, because I'm just keen to learn from you about how leaders actually demonstrate that.
Well, isn't that a great line? I think I heard that line for the first time in my mid-20s, and I still carry it around with me. I still quote it a lot, and I really wish I'd thought of it, Kevin, to be honest. But look, to me, I think it means listen. That's in these 5 sessions that we've had this week, that's a word I don't think we've used yet. But half of communication is listening. And so I think the role of the leader, one of the most important things a leader can do is get out amongst his team and talk to them, ask good questions, take good notes. If your people see you taking notes, they think that what they're telling you is important, or they think that what they're telling you is something that you see as being important. And they puff their chest out a bit, and they take a bit of pride, and they take it all a bit more seriously. And that's what we want. And I say this particularly to leaders who are new in their role. If you go out and do that, if you spend time talking to the troops at every level in the business, one-on-one, in a manner that you're doing most of the listening, it's not confrontational, they're not afraid, you'll be surprised what they tell you. And most of the stuff you'll be told will be different to what you thought, or what you were told if it is a new role, or to what you were told when you came into the role. So don't be surprised by that. They'll tell you stuff you weren't expecting, but that stuff is incredibly valuable. And as I say, if your people hear you asking them questions, asking for their opinion, driving change is all about when you think about it, it's just about getting the people within the organisation to change their habits. And they're not going to change their habits unless they understand why. So we have to have those conversations. I often use the example of, my grandfather's generation. My grandfather worked on a production line, packing breakable items. And in those days, 50% of the stuff they packed broke in transit. And the people on the packing line knew why stuff was breaking, but they didn't feel they had permission to talk to the bosses. My generation would probably say, hey, well, look, if you want to know why those things are breaking, we could just pack them up the other way and you get less breakages. That generation didn't. So when you think about it, we're asking our people. They're closest to the customer. They're closest to the frontier, closer to the cold face. If we ask them what we're doing well and what we're doing not so well, and how we could be better, or how we could be faster, or how we could do things more cheaply, we'll actually learn a lot from those people. But you've got to give them permission to speak. So I think a big part of it is listening. And the other thing about caring is talk to them about themselves. Make an effort as a manager to find out about their home life, their personal life. The thing, a lot of people in production lines, it's hard to celebrate, or at factory floor level, it's hard to find things to celebrate. But they might be coaching a little league team. They might have a son or daughter that's won a championship. There's a whole lot of things you can celebrate with your people, but you've got to sit down and talk to them and understand what makes them tick.
Yeah, when I first started in real estate in the 80s, late 80s, I went to a training session, was conducted by Miff Porter, and she mentioned that Zig Ziglar quote for the first time. It's the first time I'd heard it, and I thought that was wonderful. And she related that to how real estate agents should be communicating with their sellers in particular, asking questions, getting to know them, but more importantly, making notes of what they say, because that elevates the importance of what the person's saying. It's important to me, therefore I want to make a note of it.
So in the book, I actually list what I call my 13 C words, and you're absolutely right. Number 1, 2, and 3 are clarity, communication, and consistency. Number 4 is care, which is what we've just been talking about. Develop a genuine interest in your people, and for that matter, your customers. And that's consistent with your example about real estate people. Number 5 is commitment. And that to me just means an unrelenting focus on what you're trying to achieve, what your priorities are, and making sure you're getting things done. Plenty of people talk about stuff, but they're not very good at getting stuff done. So commitment is number 5. Number 6 is change. We've got to be constantly reviewing our performance against a changing market, or the changing dynamics of the marketplace that's out there. And again, as I touched on earlier, in the current marketplace that we've got, in the current global situation, change is going to be at the forefront of everything that influences our decisions going forward. So I think there's a need to be constantly thinking about how are we doing relative to what's going on around us. Number 7, pardon me, challenge. Push it. Good leaders push themselves. You've got to sit there and force a better outcome tomorrow than you had yesterday. So constantly set goals. To use one of those old Dennis Waitley lines, set goals that are just out of reach but not out of sight. Things that are going to push you a little bit further. Number 8 is camaraderie. Working with your people. You don't have to be best buddies and you don't have to socialise with them on the weekend, but you do have to have a relationship with your people that is an easy, open, communicative relationship. So camaraderie is an important skill set. The ability to develop camaraderie is an important skill set of leaders. Number 9 is collaboration. We've got to be able to work as teams. No individual is greater than the sum of the whole, and that's just a function of a group of people working together towards a shared vision, a common understanding of what the goals are and how we're going to go about achieving them. Number 10 is competence. I think one of the most important things I could encourage in a leader or a manager is an attention to detail. Understand the numbers, understand where things are going wrong, understand the thing that went very well, understand why it went very well. As salespeople, we often sort of log our number of calls and how many of those calls convert and how many of those conversions result in a listing or a sale. Part of that detail helps us to understand the things we're really strong at and the areas that we can be better at. Number 11 is customers. We've got to recognise that without customers, we don't have a business. And I've just had a couple of experiences this week where I've been talking to people about major transactions, and here we are on Friday. They haven't come back to us. So constantly responding to your customers and doing so in a way that makes them feel important. We've focused in these discussions about looking after your people, Kevin, but you've got to do all that same stuff with your customers as well. Number 12 is courage. Courage to continually challenge the status quo. It's tough being a manager or leading a group of people in an environment like we've got at the moment, because you've got to be the person that makes the decision to do things you might not want to do. So having the courage to challenge the status quo, try new things, respond to new opportunities is a critical part of being a good leader. And last of all, cheerfulness. We spend far too much time at work not to enjoy ourselves. So do it with a smile on your face. And, somebody said to me once, no matter how tough it is, don't let your people know that you're finding it tough. Keep a smile on your face, because that's how you keep your people upbeat. So that's the 13 C words, and in particular, the last 10 of them.
You've brought a smile to my face, Bruce. It's always great talking to you. I cherish my time with you. So thank you very much for giving us so much of your time this week. And that book, once again, I'll mention is of Bruce's. It's available. We'll put a link down below for you. The Best Leaders Don't Shout. Bruce Cotterill is the author. He's been our guest all week, and it's been a privilege to have you. Bruce, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me. And thanks to all your listeners and viewers out there for listening to us this week. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
The Daily RE Uncut Show is powered by CoreLogic and supported by Printforce, Rockend and Realty.com.au. Realty.com.au is where you will see all our shows: Real Estate Talk, The Property Show, Auction Update, and of course RE Uncut. We are the home of property.